Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription. I'm your host, Matthew Holman. This is the podcast where we try to help you figure out everything related to DTC subscriptions. I'm really excited to be joined by today's guest, Bobby DeMars, the founder of Blind Barrels. Bobby, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Now, Bobby, I think we first connected. Did we do a website teardown with Jay Myers and Bold subscriptions like years ago? Were you on that?
I wasn't on that, but yeah, we met.
Okay.
I don't know if you went. Okay. So Jay from Bold was interviewing me. I was at the subscription conference, Sub Summit this year, and then I saw you afterwards, and then I gave you a box.
No,
then
we got to party, right? Yeah.
And then I showed up at this party later on in Dallas. The guy that Garden Cup, which is a pretty big, salad subscription, and I was with Shaker and Spoon. It was actually really cool because they're a pretty big subscription. Like they're create a monthly, like they give you like how to make your own cocktail type of stuff. And so one of the founders found me after I did my talk. We hit it off, and we went to the party together. And we show up at the party, and all like the garden cups are covering the whole kitchen thing. And then the Blind Barrels box is sitting on the counter. And one of the founders was like, "Wow, are you sponsoring the party?" I'm like, "Maybe, I don't know. We've gotten very large recently." But it was a good moment that I was like, "Yes, you're supposed to be here with this." Yeah, it was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
That was badass.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about sharing that, but I guess we should start sharing, like, what is Blind Barrels for everybody listening at home? Like, tell us a little bit more about the business and what's involved.
So Blind Barrels, we are a blind whiskey subscription. So every quarter our members get 4 samples, blind samples. They don't know what they are. So double blind means they don't know what they are from the beginning. They don't know what they are until it gets revealed. And we feature small American craft distillers. So they'll get the box every quarter. So everyone gets the same lineup at the same time. So we're seasonal curation, which is a little bit harder to do. But, as we'll kind of talk about, I do think it's what really helps build our community. So if somebody has a friend or a mother or a family member or a coworker that's in another state, everyone gets that same lineup at the same time. We always say great whiskey is meant to be shared. It's meant to be communal. There's an educational component, removing all the biases that we normally have in that, oh, somebody told me about this, or the label looks cool, or the price, all the ways that we make consumer decisions for alcohol. And we're removing that, and we're really giving them, people come for the blind, but they really stay for the access. We're giving them access to brands that they can't go to their Total Wine or Liquor Barn or Bevmo and get. These are brands that are often only distributed in their native state.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. You mentioned whiskey is meant to be shared, and that's kind of like why I ended up at the party. Is like we met, you handed it to me. And I'm thinking like, well, I'm not going to go up to my hotel room and like drink this by myself at a conference. Like, how sad is that? I'm going to a party. Let's go. And then before you showed up, I had, 5, 6, 7 people like lining up, trying different stuff, trying to guess. And for everybody who hasn't seen it or tried it before, like it's this really great unboxing experience. You have these 4 bottles. It's like, looks very like mysterious. And then as you start to like, you can take a sip and you're able to like kind of like go through and pick out some of the different flavor profiles. I think what was fun for me is I'm not like a big whiskey expert by any means, so I'm fairly a noob at all of that stuff, but it was kind of fun to actually get a little bit more education about what's making what flavor happen in each of the bottles. So that was what really fun for me. And other people there, we were able to bond over what we liked or didn't like and stuff too. So
yeah, I mean, I was like you. I mean, this whole thing started because my buddy was doing blinds during COVID while we were all quarantined, and he just did it. He was a big bourbon chaser, and so he made like 6 or 8 samples, and he actually worked with my wife, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was a drinker. I wasn't really a taster. I'd done blinds with wine before. I'd never done it with whiskey, and I didn't realize just how interesting and nuanced whiskey could be. I never really stopped and smelled the roses of what whiskey was, and the aromas and all the different things, and there's stages to it. And, like what you were doing is funny. Some people are going, I'm not good at this. Usually the people that say they're not good at it are pretty good at it. There is a mindful component of being present, being connected, and really like, getting to the core of your senses and what you're getting out of the whiskey. And you start talking to people, and the next thing you know, you're talking about other things, you're having fun. And I had so much fun at these tastings, and I'm like, this feels like a business. I got to figure this out. And I quickly discovered that the alcohol industry is heavily restricted, and you can't just
Right.
buy bottles and start redecanting them into other bottles. There's a 3-tier system in place. And so I had to figure that out and then navigate it. So it really took a whole year. It took all of 2021 to just put all the key components in place, making custom bottles, which in the end saved us a lot of money, but it took a whole year to make custom bottles,
Mm.
custom caps. As you said, the packaging, it was really important that we wanted people to associate these small brands with top shelf, because in many cases they are. At the time, craft was kind of an ambiguous term in the sense of, or I would say more ambivalent. People didn't know whether that means good or bad.
Right.
Craft could mean that, okay, these people are new at it, they're not good at it, or that it's young, or that it's bad. And there are a lot of young, bad craft brands out there. We've tried some. We kissed a lot of frogs, but there's some that are mind-blowing, and they're taking all sorts of chances, and we're going to throw it in a mezcal barrel, and they're doing all sorts of crazy things. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. I would say anyone that's listening that is either starting or has a box, like, you have to have a premium experience. I do think, I spent several months just calling every vendor in the country to find out how we can get our boxes with the soft touch, the premium, the gold leaf, and the color litho, and everything about it is completely custom. And I have friends in the industry, and they're like, "We're going to hook you up. You got to order 10,000 though, and it's going to be $12 a box." I'm like, I can't. That's like
Yeah.
80% of our budget. I think
Right.
it was impossible. So I just kind of kept calling until we figured out a way, at a low volume, low MOQ, we got our boxes made for like $5 a piece. And then now at our high volume, we're at about 2. So
Oh.
yeah, so it really kind of eventually got into where, because
So you invested in that at the beginning. Was that just a drag around like wanting that experience to feel like that high quality and curated? Like, because a lot of brands, maybe the box is simple because the contents are going to be good. Like, there's a whole spectrum of how people are approaching the unboxing experience.
yeah, I mean, if you think that you're paying too much for your box, then you probably are, in the
Mm.
sense that, I mean, I get people reaching out to me all the time trying to steal that part of the business, and they always come in much higher than I'm paying, and eventually they get to a point where they go, "Okay, we can meet your costs." I'm like, "Why would I switch? I'm already loyal to this." Like, okay, you're just making a headache for me to switch to you. But a lot of times people will go, like, your shipper is your box, so you can go the corrugated route and have your branding on the box and do that whole thing. And we wanted to make sure that when people open up this box, they go, "Oh wow, this is experience." People actually have trouble throwing our box away, and we did a contest to see, hey, do something with the box, and then you'll join the Whiskey Wizards. So somebody made it a Zen garden, and somebody put the custom made the foam, and they like put their gun in there. I'm like, that's not safe, but okay. And some dude made a whole. He was like a woodworker. I'm looking at. He made some for all of us. It's the coolest thing ever. Custom made to fit inside the box, and it's got a thing to hold the tasting table. It's got places for the glasses. Like, it's literally like just basically made our box even more premium by putting wood in there, but just a really kind of cool experience. But yeah, I do think that having all those little touches, even our caps, our caps are actually plastic tamper evident caps, and we spent money to put a metal finish on them just
Mhm.
to make sure. And it's funny, like, our caps, cost more than our bottles because of that,
Jeez.
which is really
So
annoying.
it's so interesting though, like something you spent so much time developing and making sure it's pretty awesome. It must feel pretty good to see like your customers like using and keeping the box and finding value in them as well. Like that
Oh,
sounds pretty cool.
totally. And it is, you're at this crossroad, and I was going to our investors. I'm like, okay, we go corrugated, I hold this up, or we can do this and we can spend more money. And at that time, there was a nice swing. It was like, $4 swing on what that was going to be at the time. And my neighbor who was across the street who invested, he was like, "We got to go premium." I'm like, okay, I think you're right. So but I did let everyone weigh in, and yeah, you're looking at the dollars, but you have to look at the sense too, in the sense of what actually makes sense for your product in the long run. This is about
Mhm.
longevity. So this is about lowering your churn rate. And when people look forward to it, I'd say what's made us successful was something that I didn't account for, is the FOMO.
Yeah.
People don't want to miss out on the next lineup. And if you can create something within your box that is curated, right, that literally is something that they couldn't normally get, and if you have an audience that you could then trade on that, the value of that audience to whatever that you're putting in the kit so that you can get something premium. Like our upcoming September lineup, we have a brand that it's a craft brand. The lineup itself is actually all member recommendations. So every September release now, it's going to be all member recommendations,
Interesting.
which is kind of cool because once again, it builds back into the community of it. And this one brand it's a brand that's pretty well known, that is really well distributed, that's at every liquor store. So we reached out to them and they offered something that is a high-end premium release that doesn't even come out for like another month after our members get it.
Cool.
And it's really select and we got it at a great price. So even giving, limited special edition offer from one of those just plays into what we're trying to do and give people access to really cool things.
Well, again, I think about too, when you think of all the different subscription models and, like when we're ordering protein powder, like the box isn't necessarily as critical because I'm putting the bag in my pantry or, wherever I go and get protein powder from every day. Whereas with yours, the box is actually part of the whole experience. Like the bottles are there, like as we're sipping it, like you saw the box was sitting out there. It's not like I took them out and I tossed the box out when I set it up, right? Because it's kind of there, makes sense. And I'm kind of curious, like, can you unpack for me and for everybody listening, like the psychology behind how you thought about like the experience, about how like because curation is just so different than say somebody's trying to buy the same thing every month.
Right. Yeah. So subscribe and save. But I think it even plays into subscribe and save to a certain degree. Like I subscribe to AG1, I analyze all the things, and it's funny, they've adjusted it in the recent, the last year to where it used to be this really kind of flimsy box that came and all the packets were really, you could go the powder scoop route or you go the packet route. The packets were really annoying in how I was putting them in there. Finally, they went to tube ones, which became really easy. The tubes themselves are even more premium. And then the box that they put them in then now acts as you want to put that on your counter and just have it hold all of your things. So now all of a sudden your branding's in there, which, I'm sure they're paying a little extra to do both of those things and to change their operations. But yeah, I was like hoping they would do something that was better than that because I had to create a whole system in my house for it. So I think even Subscribe to Save can do that in and of itself. But yeah, when we were planning it, I mean, for me, it's like anytime you're creating a brand, I mean, so I come from a backdrop, I'm a filmmaker. And whenever I was raising money for a film, I would create what's called a sizzle reel, which is like a little mini trailer of what the film is, or I would create the movie poster. And you need to make something that's tangible and real. So the first thing that I did was actually create the logo, which is it's actually a chimp, but we call it a monkey. And, he's kind of a steampunk monkey with a barrel around it. And it didn't start that way. It just evolved into that. We were originally Blind Spirits, and then we had a trademark issue. We became Blind Barrels. And, so there's all these little crossroads that you hit where you have chances to go one path versus the other. And we wanted to see, okay, can we price ourselves for the middle class and be less than all of our competitors that are doing anything within this space similarly, but still offer a premium experience? And it turned out it would take longer than we thought. So I told all the investors, I said, look, we're not going to hurry up and screw this up. We're going to spend all of 2021 putting all the key partnerships in place, making sure everything's premium, making sure everything is ours so that we don't just rush this out and all of a sudden there's certain things that you could fail for so many reasons. If you've ever looked it up, it's like competition, right? It could be a technical issue. It could be marketing. It could be supply chain. I mean, we had all of our stuff sitting off of the port of LA for like 3-4 months. I don't know if you remember that, but when COVID, stopped everything. And then when it started back up, like there was like hundreds and hundreds. Yeah, it was nuts. And we're just sitting there going, because we have this start date that we're moving towards. And I even have a buddy that's a longshoreman. I'm like, can you get our boat to move up the line? And I'm like making phone calls. I couldn't get anything done. There's some things that are totally out of your control, but focusing on the things that are in your control, which is making something premium. And we had the decision to even go with craft from the beginning, right? So that was the guy that introduced me to the lineup. He's like, there's not really anything special about putting like Maker's Mark and Bullet in a lineup, but there's some really cool craft brands out there that he had really in recent years started warming up to. And if we can find a way to get them in the lineup, that way there is something that's really special about it, that we have something that maybe other people don't have. And then, so in the alcohol system, there's a 3-tier system. The producers in the first tier have to pass to a distributor before it goes to a retailer before a consumer can buy it. So it has to run through those 3 tiers. And so what happens is these small brands So distribution controls who gets the shelf space. It controls who's on premise, who's off premise. And by putting these small brands in a lineup, we're now giving people options that distribution wasn't giving them before.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they go through the lineup, they're like, wow, like we just had, that sample A that people were talking about at the party was JT Mellick. They're crawfish farmers, and the rice that they grow the crawfish in, they then started making whiskey out of it in Louisiana. And it tastes like this deep, rich, crazy bourbon, but it's 100% Louisiana rice in the mash bill. And that checks every box because you get something that tastes amazing. You get something that everybody wants that they can't get. You got this cool kind of craft backstory, and they're doing things that people aren't doing. And all those are components that are critical to our growth because, the subscription industry is all about churn, right?
Right.
So you're going to churn, you're going to lose people. But what's happened with us, our churn has gotten lower every single quarter. And that's because we're finding people that understand what's special about what we do. And they email us and I get back to them personally. We do live tastings with everybody. We just did our second one. So every quarter we have, 60 to 200 people on a live with us. And we go through the whole lineup. We walk through the lineup. We do a bunch of giveaways and you get to know all these members and people get excited. And then they tell other people your organic growth is really critical. And I think when you have, for instance, that premium box and people have that at their house, they don't throw it away. People go, what is that?
Yeah.
Right. And then they go, oh, it's this cool thing. And then they go, oh, well, I don't drink whiskey, but my dad does, and then so that little element, that word of mouth, those are all critical components. There's so many variables that go into your growth. And you can look at, there's SEO and there's influencer marketing and there's affiliate beyond just your pay-per-click and your social media. There's like 20 things that happen in the marketing mix. I do think organic growth is critical to not just lowering your churn rate, but increasing your growth rate every quarter.
Absolutely. And again, building a box that's more of a curated experience, something that people want to talk about, something that people want to do with friends, something that's social, something that you can connect with people with. I also do love the fact that you're talking about sourcing from people that have interesting stories, right? Like, that Louisiana crawfish farm, right? Like that to me is a lot more compelling maybe than say some, whiskey maker from the last 200 years in Kentucky or something like that, right? So the idea of like finding something more compelling, people feel connected to it, feels, again, experience feels like a light word in this, in talking about your brand. I'm curious, like how have you guys decided to approach like churn and partner retention? Is that something you're actively working against, like with win backs or offers, or is it more of just we just keep taking feedback and we're just building the product and experience to be better and better and better?
I mean, we get the feedback and it's interesting. So first, if someone's having that, it's a financial thing that, bad things happen and they need to pause or exit. Yeah, we don't fight that at all. Or it could be a health thing, right? The doctor said they can't drink anymore, right? So we don't fight that. If somebody says they don't like it, well, we don't want them to be a part of it anyways, right? That doesn't happen very often. So we don't fight the churn as much as we probably could. We are working on different tools and components to do that. There's a lot of them out there. I'd say our biggest issue is involuntary churn. So somebody's payment, so for instance, Shop Pay is like Shopify's system and everything's automated and people can update their credit card info in Shop Pay, but it doesn't always back into the subscription for whatever reason, which is weird. And we've been trying to solve that. So we had a big involuntary churn that happened the previous quarter and we tried to kind of examine it. And it's weird. They have to like log out and then log back in. And it's like this, I don't know why. It's not a system, it's something that we can control. We can just raise support tickets for it. But yeah, our biggest issue is really involuntary churn in that their credit card gets declined and you try X amount of times.
Which is the worst because those are people that still want to be subscribed, right?
Yeah, sometimes people are like, how come I'm still not? When they're getting the emails that remind them and yeah, so and I'll jump on the phone and I'll try to deal with it. And I mean, I think one thing that we've kind of moved into or leaned into that we were doing that we didn't realize is that we're more of a membership than a subscription. So when part of being a member is you get not just access to the full bottles, but you get them at really great prices. So that JT Mellick, that's normally like a $90 bottle, but our members get like $60. So when we sell bottles, we don't lose money. We don't make a ton of money. Sometimes we make a decent amount. Sometimes there's a big gap between the wholesale and the retail price. But for the most part, it's really about retaining people because they get that. So it definitely is a part of our revenue model, but getting people that access and at those prices. So, if you have a smart consumer, they're going to look up, okay, here's a bottle. I like it. Let me go see if I can get this bottle and let me see if I can get it at a better price than what they're offering.
Right.
And I always challenge people. I'm like, I dare you to go see, first of all, can you get this bottle? Like that JT Malik, we ran out of bottles. At some point, they had a whole supply thing, and I had somehow one order crept in that I didn't have, that I couldn't fulfill it. And I was like, so I went to try to just order it online somewhere else and send it to this person because somehow that we had won over and I couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, this proves exactly what I'm talking about. So I just called that person. I'm like, can you just wait like 4 weeks? I'm really sorry. I'll send you, and, it's funny when you have a customer service problem. I used to pretend when we started that we had, if somebody reached out to customer service, it's like, it's the Blind Barrel support team. And the reality is it's me. Right. And so I stopped pretending that we had this support team and I started just saying, hey, it's me. You have a problem, or I'll jump on the phone. Somebody comes in hot, somebody sent it to the wrong address once. They ordered something and they're like, this is going to the wrong address. It's like, okay, I didn't put the address in, obviously. And they're like, it's going to be there in a day. And there's no way. And I'm like, well, you can contact the carrier and you can reroute it. And then they got really mad because their phone number is on the package, which is how shipping works. Like your phone number is a part of it, so the carrier can reach you. And the person that received it called them, and they're like, "This woman called me, and she's got my box." And now it's like all caps, and it's like, if this doesn't, whatever, I'm gonna write bad reviews and be all of your social. And I just took a breath, and I called the guy. I'm like, so I looked up the address. You did live at this address 25 years ago, okay? And I couldn't control the address. Now, first of all, the guy couldn't believe that the founder of the company is calling him directly. He all of a sudden started getting embarrassed about just how people just want to be angry sometimes, and they don't think they're talking to a human. And I kind of try to, hey, let's pull the curtain back. And I said, look, this wasn't our mistake, but I noticed it says Sergeant in your email. Are you a veteran? He's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, okay, we're going to take care of you. We're going to get you a kit. And, and then by the end of the call, he's like, well, you got a member for life. I'm telling everybody. And it's those little moments, it's taking what feels like a loss, turn it into a win and try to get them on your side. And the funny thing is, something stupid is like that angry email that will like bother me all weekend if I don't resolve it. Like one little thing like that will just like bug me if I don't just figure that out. And so whatever, we're going to eat $20 on the shipping and we'll figure it out. But now it's like, okay, we got this guy in our corner. He's going to be fighting for us and turn it into a win. So it's trying to do all that. So this weekend, I mean, I was, with my kids in the pool, and we got the little chat bot and I get the notifications. At some point, I'm going to pass this off. And so there was like a 20-minute delay from when he asked a question and then all of a sudden he's like, well, obviously and he just came in really hot. And I was like, hey, look, I'm in the pool with my kids. It's Sunday and this is, the answer to your question. But look, we're a small business. And then, he apologized like so profusely. And then he became a member, right? Yeah. But you kind of hold up the mirror sometimes. I think we all do this. We all get mad. It's like we're in the car and we just start berating the person in the car next to us because they can't hear us. There's this element to where we just, look at how stupid this person is. I need to look at their face. I need to see how stupid they look when I pass by them. I just have to see who this person I'm mad at.
I feel like there's egg on my face right now. I feel like you're talking about my driving over the holiday weekend.
And then you're like, we've all done this. And for some reason, people do this with customer service. And I'm like, hey, let's back it up. Like, we're all humans over here. Let's try to humanize what we're doing. Sure. And look, if somebody doesn't want to, I say one of the things the problem is people go after a year, they don't realize that they have a subscription. Mm-hmm. So they'll get an email notification. We have everything automated. You get an email notification. All of our renewals back up right into the same time because it's like everyone gets the same kits at the same time. So I send emails about everybody like, hey, did you change your address or do you want a different date because some people are out of town, right? And that's just tackling problems before they become a problem because people will change their address and not think I need to change the address for all my subscriptions, right? Like as if we just know that. I can go to the system and see if they updated it, but 9 times out of 10, they don't do that. So you give them that chance. Hey, did you change the address? Do you want this to go to a different address because you're summaring somewhere? Do you want a different date? So I give all these reminders, from the reminder that they're renewing, to the reminder that, hey, did you change your address? We give everybody every opportunity before it renews, so it's not a surprise. But sure enough, there's a X amount of people that are surprised at the renewal. And there's several things that happen. Like, so sometimes people, they don't want to cancel, but they want to pause, or they weren't ready for this financially. And I always refund, cancel the subscription when they want to. It sucks because we lose money from that. Like, we still lose transaction fees, the subscription fees. So like when someone cancels an annual, it costs us $12. And I used to like, there was a very brief period where I was like, there's a restocking fee, and there was a thing to kind of cover that gap and that loss, and that would piss people off, and they would then in your socials start eating your comments alive. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to eat the loss, and we're going to take care of it. I'd say the most annoying thing is you get these, I call it the passive aggressive exit, where like we just had a bunch of renewals go through, right? And there's always, I'd say, per 1,500 subscriptions of renewals that come through, there's one person that's just like, okay, this is bullshit. Like, I didn't know that this was a subscription. Instead of just emailing us directly, they do a chargeback.
Chargeback. That's
And
my name's upgrade. God.
I hate the chargeback, because I'm like, you know what? It's so easy. Like, you can just email me and I'll take care of everything. Instead, I got to go through this whole proving process, and I don't have a problem. I can't even refund you because you set up the chargeback. I can't even do anything. And I'm going to get dinged a fee, and I have to go through all that. So that's really frustrating, but it's the cost of doing business. And it's funny because like the chargebacks, I'll go into the system, and most of the time they're still a subscriber. They didn't even cancel. They still haven't canceled. They're still a member. I'm like, okay, I don't know. This is now awkward. And, I could reach out to them and communicate to them. And I haven't really come up with a good solution for that, except we pretty much win all the chargeback.
Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah. I mean, there's some automated systems for like filing and challenging them, but they're
Started up one.
There's not the exactly.
American Express almost always sides with the consumer regardless. So that's why I literally don't have an American Express card. So I hold a grudge against them.
That's why I have an American Express card as a consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I totally understand what you mean. And that's why I think sometimes too with like the return stuff, like or the refund stuff, it's a lot easier because you're always at a risk. If somebody wants to escalate, they can escalate to a chargeback, which can make things a little bit extra dicey and stuff. You're just better off as a business making it easier for somebody to get out, even if they're in the wrong, as long as you're not losing your shirt, right? Because you never know. Sometimes they'll come back, or at the very least, you're just doing a little bit of damage control.
Sometimes they do. And I have a response now that I've kind of formulated when someone says, hey, we didn't mean for this to happen, and I'll, refund it and everything. I come in nice and tell them, hey, look, we do all this stuff to be above board so that this isn't a surprise. But obviously we don't want people to be members that don't want to be. Right. So you're refunded, you're canceled. And they usually respond with gratitude and really positive. And then I use that moment. I'm like, hey, can you just leave us a review? And then I can get an authentic review on the way out. I get some value out of that. Hey, would I pay $12 that I'm losing in that for somebody to just leave us a positive review? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, that would work on me. So yeah, that's pretty smart. I like that. Okay, Bobby, I have a question or two is like right before you wrap up. Is there anything like with your journey over the last 4 or 5 years that you wish, like Bobby getting started out in the curated subscription box space, that you knew then that you know now?
Yeah, I would just say having gratitude for where you are. It's funny that when we started out, when we went to Subscription Summit, we'd only launched for, the 3, 4, 5 months when I went to Subscription Summit, Sub Summit. And, we had like a couple hundred members. And, in my mind, I'm like, I want 1,000 right off the bat, which was a blessing that we didn't, because there was all this stuff that we hadn't figured out that we had to solve and get our operations like running smoothly. And there were several people who were like, wow, 200, that's amazing. I'm like, really, is it? And they're like, yeah, it took me 2 years to get to that point. And so I didn't have perspective on where we were. And I do that kind of check in every quarter. And because we're growing like, about 22 to 28% every quarter, and we're hitting these goals. And instead of not thinking like where I'm not yet, having gratitude for where we are, we can easily say, hey, we're not at 50,000 subscribers. We're not this, we're not that. No, we're here and we're in a good place, and we don't have any debt, and we've got a lot of runway, and we built a community. And that's something that we should be proud of and we should be grateful for, and use that positive energy looking ahead and do this kind of check-in on where you are instead of worrying about where you're not yet. So I've taken that lesson from the past and I've carried that forward. And another thing I learned from Sub Summit was great. I think it's Plate Crate. I was at this thing, Plate Crate's the baseball subscription, and they came up with this thing, like this, I don't know, this gadget, this like tee it up thing that I think it cost them like a couple of bucks, but they throw it as a free item. And so I got custom tasting glasses that we sell for $20, but I actually get them for like $2. And so when someone becomes a new member, part of our sales thing is, hey, you get versus if someone just buys a one-off kit, which you can do, but to add in the free tasting glass, along with, if someone's doing a discount or whatever it is. So every new member gets a tasting glass in their first kit, and it's thick and it's nice, and it's it's got the Blind Barrels logo on it. And they're like, now I'm in your house. Right. And so it's great because it's a brand extension that they're now tasting with, and people share online. It does a lot of things that are really valuable. But finding that thing that right off the bat is an added value component. So that was a year ago that suggestion happened. And then I feel like that's been a great selling point, a great conversion tool. Our conversions went up about 30% just by adding that one thing. So it's those little things. It's all alchemy, right? You're all trying to figure out what's the mix, what works for you. There's so many things that work and don't work. And we wasted money on publicists, I'm our best publicist and my assistant, we just reach out and, he gets me on, podcasts every week. He reaches out to all these blogs and all these review sites and all these YouTubers. And he's way more successful than, anyone that's just doing these email blasts, so anyone that's selling you, and as you get bigger, you're going to people try to sell you things all the time. I mean, it's stupid. Being a speaker this last year, or, being on that speaker list at Sub Summit, I mean, another level of the amount of people trying to sell me something. And at some point I can't take all these meetings, but also it's just you have to pick and choose. And there are some valuable things out there. There are tools that we're not using. We don't have a good loyalty system in place right now. So we're trying to figure out what the best version of that is and make the right decision for that. So we haven't figured out our SEO as much as we can.
Be careful. You mentioned loyalty app on here. We have loyalty apps that listen to this podcast, so you might get a few DMs.
All right. Well, hey, I don't mind it. So I'm looking for that, right? So hey, if you've got a really good component for loyalty, then hey, send it our way, because we are going to do this at some point. But yeah, all these people that I hate the you got all these broken links. There's this copy paste of somebody that basically says your SEO sucks. Yeah. We vetted your site, and it's like a horrible phishing thing. And I'm like, I get enough of those. And, it's just, I think that it's funny. I get about 3 emails a day from nonprofits that want us to donate.
Yeah.
And, I've used it now as a metric. We used to get one a month, and then we started getting 1 a week, and now I'm getting 3 a day. And I'm like, oh, we've saturated the marketplace. That people are, I use it as a KPI now, where I'm like, oh, this is cool. People are finding us easier.
Everybody nonprofit donation emails we get. I get the ones I get a lot too are YouTube optimization, because we publish this on YouTube, and my pet peeve is always if you're going to tell me something's wrong, give me a tip or two that you think I should do, right? And I never get that. It's I've had some engagement with people when they do that. If you're going to tell me you should be doing X, Y, and Z, okay, I'm now going to list them.
Right.
Okay, and you do X, Y, and Z? Is that's part of your service, So anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Give me a response, or, this one group, they call me every single quarter like clockwork, and they want to do our marketing. And we have a great marketing team, but I told them that, And this guy calls, he's like, yeah, I did a lot of research on your company and, saw that you're not on Amazon. I'm like, you do a lot of research on our company? Oh, yeah. I'm like, that we sell alcohol, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm like, you can't sell alcohol on Amazon, right? So I'm like, can you just remove me from your list? And then I got cold calls from 2 other people at the company. Like I was on the list that day, whatever that queue was to like cold call people and all their people were calling. Like, I'm like, I just asked you to remove me from the list. You guys are calling me again. I'm like, your guys' system is messed up. I would consider you guys as potential marketing people previously, if for some reason my marketing team wasn't performing, but I'm like, now I hate you guys.
That's awesome. Well, Bobby, I want to thank you for coming on the show, especially what you said at the end about adding value and gratitude, perspective, and perspective taking is so hard. It's such an important growing a business, especially dealing with the stress, the pressure, the hopes, the aspirations. Thanks again for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thank you so much. And, I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs out there, you're constantly seeking guidance. And I mean, I run a company, I run another company. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I'm always looking for pearls of wisdom, and we're constantly learning, and that's ultimately how we grow, right? That's what growth is. You have to change yourself and doing, something to better yourself and ultimately better your company. And, I'm trying to be a better leader. I'm trying to be a better colleague because the people that work for me, I always say we work together. I'm trying to do all these things and hopefully make me a better person, to be a better father, we're always trying to be better. And I think your podcast is a great tool to help people get better.
Thank you. And that is exactly what we're trying to do too, right? It helps me, it helps other people. So it's a win-win. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for this week's dose. Go check out blindbarrels.com and Bobby DeMars. And stay tuned next week's dose for another dose of subscription prescription. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.